Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're back in War Thunder, and the dev server preliminary patch notes are up. Now, what does this mean? That means that the update notes for update 1.67 are up on the forum on War Thunder. There will be a link in the description if you want to see them. And also, there was a video today, which is on their main website. Basically a little teaser. It's in the update 1.67 Assault Digest news tab, and also the dev server was up. So we had some wonderful people at the War Thunder Reddit who went through a bunch of stuff, looking at some of the new vehicles, working out what was being added to the game which hasn't been shown in dev blogs, and everything like that. Little things such as different bomb loads for the Japanese now, and even maybe some experimental rockets. So what am I going to talk about now? I'm going to talk about a plane which hasn't been shown in a dev blog, but is another plane which I think is really interesting. We have the Lincoln B Mark II, which is in the preliminary updates. Now, if you don't know anything about the Avro Lincoln, it is a British bomber, a late war British bomber. It was introduced in the British Air Force in 1945, when its first flight was in 1944, and basically what it was a replacement for the Lancaster. Now, the Lancaster served the British Air Force very well. Same as the Halifax, same as the Sterling, even same as the Wellington. The Whitley, not so much, but the Lancaster, you've got to remember, was a 1942 aircraft. And let's just see when the Halifax was, because obviously the Wellington was it was around that period of nearly being pre-war, and Halifax, they was introduced in 1940. So the main bombers that the British were definitely showing their age by 1944. You've got to remember that in 1944, other nations were looking at jet bombers. They were looking at the B-17, the B-24, even the B-29 in its early stages. So, the Avro Lincoln was designed to be a bit quicker, be a bit nippier, but still have the same core concept of the Avro Lancaster. So it had the same bomb load, or the same max bomb load, of 22,000 pounds, which was the 1 DP bomb, if you know what that was, and up to 14,000. So basically the same bomb load as an Avro Lancaster. But the real difference for this aircraft is when we look at its speed. Its speed, with a maximum speed of 513 kilometers an hour and a cruise speed of 346 kilometers an hour, is quite nippy for a 4-engined huge bomber, which is why it's kind of interesting. It's significantly faster than the Lancaster, but the issue was it kind of came around at a bad time. You've got to remember, by the end of the war, especially 1945, Germany was pretty much beat, and when it came to the bombing campaigns, even though the British were still bombing by night, the Americans were definitely doing the majority of the work. We all know about, the 3rd Air Force, which was based in Britain, and lost many lives to the Germans over the course of the Second World War, mainly because they were the guys who were mainly bombing. And even though the Lincoln was produced, it was generally not very useful. I mean, there's not really much else to say. Because it was introduced in 1945, a bunch of squadrons picked it up between 1945 and the 1950s. But at that point, it was already showing its age, because obviously jets were coming in, and its armament was very lackluster, like a lot of British bombers. You can tell that this machine was designed to be a night bomber, and with its overall size, with its overall speed, with the fact that if we look at its armament, it had two 50s in the nose, two 50s in the tail, and then it had either two 50s in the top turret, or the dorsal turret, or two twin Hispanos, so 20mm. Now, since they've gone with the Mark II variant of this aircraft, I hope that we get the Hispanos, but I feel like we're going to have a Lancaster situation where we're going to have one Lancaster which has the 77s and one which has the 50s. I feel like with the Lincoln we'll have a Mark I which will have the 50s and the Mark II which will have the Hispanos. So this was a relic of its time, unfortunately, and it generally isn't that much different to a lot of the other British bombers out there. If we compare the Halifax, the Lancaster in game, if anything, a lot of people would probably say that the Halifax is in a much better position, just because of what it fights. Now think about the Lincoln. The Lincoln on the dev server right now is at 6-0. It's in that horrible period for any bomber, not just British bombers, but American bombers as well. You're talking about the B-17Gs. Now, when we look at the B-29 and the B-17Gs, the B-17G still struggles at 6-0. The reason for that is because over the last few patches, we've got a lot of super props. When we look at Britain, we obviously have the Griffin Spitfires. When we look at Russia, they're not as good. You know, they have like the LA-9 and the Yak-9 UT, but that's really about it. When we look at Germany, they have added the DO-335s, which get an air spawn, which will screw your day up, basically. You have the TAR-152s, which sometimes get an air spawn. And then, for America as well, we've had the addition of certain planes such as the P-47N. But the B-17G is at 6-0, and it struggles, and it is armed to the teeth. The Lincoln, just take the Lancaster's set of guns, right? Go to the Lancaster Mark III, go to customization, and look where its guns are. That is basically the setup of the Lincoln, apart from the top turret that you can see, the ball turrets, or the dorsal turrets, depending on where you're from. It's set up with, instead of 7.7 Browning machine guns, it has either 50s or 20mm, and also the front turret has 50s in it instead of 7s. That is the difference between the Lincoln and the Lancaster. It's a bit quicker, it has slightly better guns, but you've got to remember, the Lancaster in game right now cannot carry its full bomb load. It's actually nowhere near. The Sterling, another wonderful aircraft, cannot carry its full bomb load. It doesn't exist in the game. The Halifax, one of my favourite aircraft of World War II, an unsung hero, has nowhere near its real bomb load. So do you think they're going to give the Lincoln its full bomb load of 14,000? Of course not. Why would they? For some reason they seem adamant on not doing it. If we look at the Lancaster, its normal bomb load is 14,000 pounds. The Halifax's normal bomb load is 14,000 pounds, or 13,000 pounds, I should say, very close. The Lincoln's bomb load, its average bomb load, is up to 14,000 pounds. The Sterling as well. The closest we get in game for a British bomber to be at 14,000 pounds is 2 1,000 pounders on the Lancaster and 14,000 pound bombs. So on the Lancaster Mark III, we get there, which is great. On the Lancaster B Mark I, we get there, which is great. The Sterlings, nowhere near. We get 13,000 pounds, if you include the 500 pounders. With the Halifax, now this is not including their special bomb loads, this is just including their standard bomb loads. The Halifax, 15 by 500, so we're looking at, what, 5,000, and then, you know what, calculator time. I'm tired and I've been up for a very long time watching the rugby. So 15 times 500, we have 7,500. That is the max bomb load on the Halifax, half of its actual bomb load. So will the Lincoln get its bomb load? I believe it will get the exact same bomb loads that the Lancaster has. And it will be at 6.0, because that's where it's at on the dev server. And it will be useless. It doesn't have the defensive armament of a B-29 or a B-17. It is not as fast as them. Its bomb load does not... its bomb load... Let's look at the B-29's bomb load to compare. Actually, no, let's look at the B-17 since it's at 6.0. The B-17 goes up to 8,000 pounds. So there is a justification on taking a British bomber over a B-17. You get that extra bomb load. Then we go to the B-29, which is what the majority of the Americans use right now. You have 18,000 pounders. So your bomb load's better, your armament's held better, and you're faster. I feel sorry for British bombers. They have got better over the years in War Thunder. I remember a time where it was literally Lancaster B Mark I, or Lancaster, and then Wellingtons, and that was it. Over the last few patches, look what we've got. I mean, we've got the Hampton Mark Is, the 2 Sunderlands, the Halifax, the 2 Sterlings, an extra Lancaster, and we've got the Canberras. Over the last year or two, this bombing line is an actual line. It's not just a collection of planes. And it is nice to see the Lincoln join us. Will it be that useful? How many British bombers do you see in realistic battles right now? You see maybe 1. Maybe 2 if you're lucky. And just think about what happens to them. It's not very pretty. But it's nice to see it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and update 1.67 should be out pretty soon. So look forward to it, and we'll do some more videos on it. Go and check out the preliminary patch notes, because there is some interesting stuff, especially when it comes to flight models. So, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.